Good morning. Today we're going to read chapter 10 of Jasmine Toguchi. And this chapter is called Breaking the Rules. Uncle Jimmy was right about one thing. When you wait and wait for something, it really is wonderful when you get it. At least that's how I felt as I walked outside with Dad and Uncle Jimmy. Uncle Ray carried his freshly pounded mochi over to the women. "Jasmine Toguchi," Mom said from the table. "What are you doing out here?" Dad walked over to talk with Mom. Mom's forehead wrinkled. I wish I could hear what they were saying. I watched for clues. Dad was smiling, and Mom wasn't exactly smiling, but she didn't look mad either. When Mom glanced at me, I straightened my shoulders. I held my breath as I waited for a sign. Finally, when I thought my lungs would explode, Mom nodded, and I let my breath out in a whoosh. This is reminding me, so I'm going to put it on another connection, but this is not a text-to-text connection, not a text-to-self connection, so I'm just going to put text-to-self for our previous one, my previous one, but this is a text-to-text connection. And this reminds me of Jacob's new dress, because do you remember when Jacob was trying to decide whether he could wear his new dress to school, and his parents said they weren't sure if he could wear it at school, only at home, and he said it felt like all of the air left his lungs or something like that, just for that period of time waiting for his parents' answer. Jacob waiting to see if he can wear a dress to school. All right. So that kind of, I'm identifying with the new moment of, or that moment of waiting and feeling like seconds are just hours, right? And so that's the same as Jasmine waiting and watching for her mom and dad to talk about her helping. So you can see this is like a very sloppy copy, but just getting down my initial thoughts and ideas, and I can always go back and organize it later. She turned and spoke to the aunties and Oba-chan. Everyone at the mochi table looked over at me. Auntie Laura gave me a thumbs up. Sophie stuck her tongue out. This was the first time ever I was breaking a rule. Well, maybe not the first time. I wasn't supposed to watch TV before I finished my homework. I only did that once. Well, maybe twice. I did eventually get my homework done, though. I wasn't supposed to eat cookies before dinner, but I only did that a few times. Okay, so maybe this wasn't the first time I was breaking a rule, but this was the first time I was breaking a rule with Mom and Dad's permission. It felt great. Cousin Anna waved to me as she went inside. She was going to watch the twins until after I got my turn. Uncle Jimmy stepped up to the usu with the hammer over his shoulder. So now I'm wondering usu. I'm seeing Uncle Jimmy stepped up to the usu, and I'm thinking this is Uncle Jimmy. And so I'm thinking that this is an usu. So I'm just going to make the prediction that the usu is the stone they're pounding it in. So I'm just going to go back to my thinking I started for steps for mochi. And I have here pound the rice outside into stone. And then I'm just going to underline stone and write usu. Name of stone you pound rice into mochi. Okay, and I'm actually going to draw just a little picture of it so I have an idea and I can remember when I come back exactly what I saw. And it reminds me of like a bigger version of those guacamole bowls that you can pound things into. I don't know if you guys are familiar with those, but I have one of those to make guacamole. Okay. And then I'll do that. And I'm just going to also draw a little hammer because for me it helps me kind of visualize the whole thing. Okay. All right. Usu. Okay. Uncle Jimmy stepped up to the usu with the hammer over his shoulder. Steam from the cooked rice drifted up into the air. Uncle Jimmy gripped the hammer with both hands and swung it down onto the rice. Thwack, thwack, thwack. He smacked the hammer into the big stone bowl. Thwack, thwack, thwack. The steamed rice became a lumpy, bumpy blob. After Uncle Jimmy hit the mochi 3 times, Uncle Ray reached into the usu to turn the mochi to keep it from sticking to the bowl. Okay, so I'm going to write in here too because I'm just interested in how this works from like scratch. So I'm just going to put like a star here. And so when you're pounding the mochi in the usu, I'm going to write pound 3 times, stir so won't stick. And that'll help me remember the steps. Uncle Jimmy hit the mochi again. Uncle Ray dipped his hands into a bowl of water before spinning the mochi another time. Thwack, 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 flip, flack, thwack, 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 flip. Did anyone ever get hit by the hammer? I glanced at Eddie, who stood far away from me. He pretended I wasn't there. I watched Uncle Jimmy and Uncle Ray pound and flip, flip and pound. It was taking forever. I sat down. Over at the table, Mom and Oba-chan pulled pieces off the giant ball of mochi and passed them down to my aunties and cousins. Mochiko rice flour was sprinkled across the table like snow so the mochi wouldn't stick to the tablecloth. Sophie's hands were white with the rice flour as she took her piece of mochi and rolled it between her hands. When it was round like a ball, she flattened it a little with her palms and placed it on a big tray. Sophie was already doing her job. When would I get to do mine? Both the uncles finally stopped pounding. While Uncle Jimmy took the big lump of mochi over to Mom, Eddie picked up the hammer. He rested it on his shoulder until Uncle Jimmy came back and stood next to the usu. Dad dumped a glob of rice into the stone bowl. Okay, I'm going to add another step here. 3. I'm going to write, they take small balls of mochi and roll it in their hands. And then they flatten it out and put it on the tray. So I'm going to put like a ball here. And then you kind of flatten it out to like a little disc type thing. Right? And then wait. Okay. I paid close attention to Eddie as he lifted the hammer and dropped it onto the rice. Thwack! Eddie pounded the rice 2 more times. Thwack! Thwack! Uncle Jimmy flipped the mochi. When his hand was safely out of the way, he nodded to Eddie. Thwack! Flip. Eddie swung the hammer easily, but he pounded slower than the uncles. After his dad flipped the ball of rice again, Eddie raised the hammer like he was tired. A seed of worry formed in my tummy. This is a feeling I can relate to. So I'm going to go to my little connection bubble. A seed of worry formed in my tummy. And I'm just going to write the page for me. And then I'm going to come back to this in just a minute because I feel like I want to keep reading. Thwack, flip, thwack, flip, thwack, flip. Uncle Jimmy took the hammer from Eddie. He patted Eddie on the back and congratulated him. Great job, son. The seed of worry blossomed into a huge flower of worry. That was a good job? Eddie only hit the mochi maybe 7 times. Eddie smiled. Wow, so that's what his face looked like when he was happy. His face went back to his usual scowl when Dad tapped my shoulder and said, Your turn, Jasmine. So I told you that I had this connection, right? A seed of worry formed in my tummy. There's been a few times for me that this has happened, right? The most recent time that I've had this seed of worry, it was almost like more so a seed of nervousness type thing. Not so much worry, but I told you guys that I presented at a conference recently. Presented at a literacy conference. And I was a fairly young teacher in comparison to the other teachers presenting and teachers listening. And I think I told you guys about that conference I presented at, and I was really, really, really nervous. And I woke up and the whole morning I had this seed of worry until I was done with my presentation. And this isn't always a bad thing, right? Because sometimes it's our body telling us that we're getting ready to do something that we don't typically do in a day. So I'm sure you guys could also probably connect to this seed of worry because I think that's something all humans can connect with. So I would love to hear how you guys connected, either to this same connection or to something different in this story. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. Have a good day. Bye.